Sometimes you're just simply bored and you're scrolling through Instagram trying to find things you. Sometimes, and I know we've all done it, you're in the restroom, right? You have nothing else to do, so you pop up that phone, you see a few WhatsApp videos, you go on maybe Snapchat, see what your friends have sent. And so we use social media in almost all aspects of our lives, even news. One report says, this is by the Pew Research Center, that 20% of Americans occasionally receive their news from social media. This is more than traditional print news, which is 16%. Can you imagine? Nowadays, the favor is tipping towards social media. More and more adults, especially youth, are gaining much of their news from social media, as opposed to traditional print media. Whether that be, New York Times, Washington Post, even their online versions. They prefer to receive their news from social media, from Twitter headlines, from Instagram stories, from Facebook posts. So it can be a great thing. You can connect with your family, right? Sometimes people connect with their friends. Their friends in high school whom they haven't seen in years, you're able to still connect with them and see what's going on with their lives through Facebook. You can keep up with events and programs going on in your local community. We, for example, had a vaccination drive last night here. And if you follow social media, you were able to know that. You can follow up with other sorts and forms of events. For example, if you have a friend or relative who has a birthday, rather than calling them or sending them a card, you can just go on their Facebook post, right? And just write a single comment or message, right? Makes things much easier. Just write Mabruk or happy birthday. No need for calling or sending a message or sending them a card. It's made things so much more easier. However, we have to acknowledge that there are certain inherent problems with social media. And inshallah, tonight we'll be discussing 3 of them. The first is the addicting nature of social media. The second is that as Muslims, we have to be wary, and especially our youth, of the inappropriate content that is out there on social media. And third, this is, I believe, a very, very important topic. Inshallah, we will leave this for tomorrow. This is the phenomenon, or the recent phenomenon, and the increasing phenomenon known as fake news, which I believe is destroying the very fabric of our society, and which the Quran condemns. So inshallah, that third one we will be discussing tomorrow, bi'idhnillah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So we mentioned earlier that the typical American adult spends upwards of 2 hours on social media, and up to a third of teenagers spend upwards of 6 hours on social media. That should be indicative of how addicting this concept is. One study said and reported that 1/4 of individuals check their phone within 1 minute of waking up. You've just woken up, you haven't washed your face, you haven't gone to the bathroom, and within 1 minute of waking up, you check your phone. You want to see how much crypto prices have gone up or down, or you want to see, this is back in 2018, 2019, what the president has tweeted. Sometimes, he tweets in the morning, those 3 a.m. tweets, you don't want to miss them. And that same study said 62% of adults, so more than half, check their phone within 15 minutes of waking up. So it's almost as if it's one of the priorities in the day. You've only just woken up, yet one of your first urges is to go on social media and see what's going on. There's a professor by the name of Mark Griffiths at Nottingham Trent University. He's conducted a study and he's discovered that social media addiction is very similar in its chemical composition to drug addiction. And these are some of the features he's discovered. For example, one prominent feature of drug addiction is frequent and severe mood changes. And he's found that to be almost identical in social media addiction. Social withdrawal. Sometimes you find people, they're in a gathering, right? But they're not really present. Everyone is laughing, enjoying their time. Yeah, they're just scrolling on Facebook, on Twitter. They're not able to enjoy the moment. Social conflict and social relapse. Secondly, You can ask a doctor or a friend, someone in the medical field. They'll confirm this for you. Facebook addiction is an actual medical term. Facebook addiction. Now, perhaps the demographic for this form of addiction is a bit on the older side, right? With all due respect to them. I would imagine maybe some of the youth would have an addiction more towards TikTok, perhaps Twitter, perhaps Instagram. But Facebook addiction is an actual medical term. Thirdly, these companies, these social media companies, they make lots of money. They're not doing this for free. Some of the social media companies are worth billions and billions of dollars, and some are worth trillions. Facebook is worth over $1 trillion, I believe, right? I think recently they crossed that threshold. So these companies, they have lots of money, and they do lots of research on how they can have their users be more hooked and addicted to their apps. So what do? They prey on your psychology. For example, one study they conducted was that when you scroll on Twitter or Instagram or any social media app where you scroll, right, to see the feed, if you have to manually refresh the page such that you receive more tweets or Instagram posts, you're less likely to spend time on the app than if the app refreshes the feed automatically for you. So it's a very simple thing, right? Rather than clicking a button to refresh the page, if you just simply scroll and it refreshes the page for you, you're more likely to spend time on the app, and more time on the app means more money generated for the company. So these companies, they actually employ, among software engineers and executives, they employ psychologists in order to see how they can have you be better addicted to their app. The more time you spend on the app, the more money they generate. So we're always addicted to our phones are always out. There is a phenomenon known as phubbing, phone snubbing. When you snub your friend or relative or family member with your phone. Now what does that mean? You're out together, for example, having lunch, and rather than conversing and having a good time, one of the friend or family members all of a sudden pulls out their phone and they ignore you and just they're on their business on their phone. That's called phone snubbing, and they've termed it phubbing. And in fact, research studies have been conducted on this. And one research study found that when there is a gathering and one individual engages in phubbing, what happens is social trust begins to weaken. They found that hostility, social hostility, begins to increase, among many other discoveries. Once I read a New York Times post in which a lady wanted to test her new son-in-law. So her daughter was getting married with someone, or perhaps they were getting engaged. She said, "I have no issues with you marrying my daughter, on one condition. We have to go on a retreat, maybe Hawaii, Fiji, I'm not sure where. We have to go somewhere, spend one weekend, 3 days together in the same house. However, we are not allowed to bring our phones. One weekend." She states, by the end of the weekend, my daughter and that individual decided to break up. SubhanAllah, they couldn't handle 3 days together, right? With serious and intense interaction without their phones. Now, can you imagine? They wanted to live all their lives together. So that's a good test, right? If you want to see someone, are they able to hold a conversation? Are they able to engage with you? Just ask them to put down their phone. And what many families do nowadays is they place in the middle of the dinner table, or maybe on the side, they call it a phone cage. Whenever dinner is served, everyone places their phone, you lock the door, it's a small cage like this, and then when dinner ends, you've had your fun time, you've enjoyed your family, your friends, everyone is allowed to get their phone out. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. YouTube, the famous video website, has a section called YouTube Kids. And it's marketed towards kids. It's seen as more friendly. It's seen as safer. Only cartoons and things appropriate for kids are on there. However, I feel like there's a need to inspect YouTube Kids a bit deeper. So on YouTube Kids, one study was conducted. Many of the videos you find on YouTube Kids are very, very long. Well, you'd imagine, kids, especially kids nowadays, they have very, very short, what? Attention spans. Some of the videos are about an hour long. An hour long, and kids watch them. Now, what's being shown in these videos? Now, if you watch them after maybe half a minute, 1 minute, you want to put that video away. So the angle of the camera is like this, upwards looking down, and it's someone opening Kinder eggs, or any kind of, treat or chocolate or something like that, which contains toys. So it's about an hour of someone just opening up these treats and seeing the toy, examining it, give or take a minute, they put it to the side, they repeat. Rinse and repeat. For an entire hour, kids can be watching that, and they almost finish the entire video. Now, why is that? Well, you'd imagine that'd be kind of boring, right? Kids like cartoons, and they like things that constantly change, not, repetitive behavior. What they found is that kids, they like that, right? They like that concept of a toy or a treat. When you open it, a different kind of toy comes out every time. And so what they've discovered is that every single time the toy is opened, dopamine is released in the brain, and then they get hooked and addicted to that feeling. So they will literally sit down for an hour and watch a full video, 1 hour long, of just a kid opening 50, 60, 70 toys. That's it. Can you imagine? So this YouTube Kids, these kinds of videos, they're actually influencing the chemical composition of children and changing their behavior and what they like and their preferences, such that they're addicted to repetitive, routine, really simple videos. Why? Because they're addicted to that dopamine rush. Another danger on YouTube Kids is that many content creators, so if you have children, especially if they're 6, 7 and younger, you might think, well, I won't show them YouTube. They might see inappropriate behavior. But guess what? Same thing on YouTube Kids. They found that many content creators, they'll title their content, for example, SpongeBob cartoon. But what they'll find is that once you start watching the video, it's SpongeBob at first, but then really grotesque and bloody and, really weird imagery begins to appear. And you can search this up. Sometimes the title will have like 100 characters. SpongeBob, Cocomelon, whatever, all kinds of things that kids would search, such that they land on it, or that the YouTube, next video feature automatically takes you to the next video, that will ultimately end up on this video. And there's hundreds and hundreds and thousands of these kinds of videos. And it's really scary. Just watch some of these videos. They show some really grotesque imagery. But how do they get away with it? It's on YouTube Kids, right? But they title it, a very nice title, SpongeBob, whatever. And in the beginning and in the end, it really is SpongeBob. But sometimes in the middle, they'll show some really scary imagery. And that can really scar young kids. So we think that, our kids are safe. But we really have to watch out. And so YouTube, they promise and they vow that kids who use that app, we protect their privacy. But recently, YouTube, this is about a year or two ago, they were slapped with a $200 million fee. $200 million fine for invasion of kids' privacy. Well, it turns out all this time, they were stealing kids' information. Well, if you think about it, that's their business model, right? That's how they make their money. It's not surprising. But can you imagine, if just their fine was $200 million, how much money did they make off of this? So it's really something we have to watch out for. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. This brings us to our second point. Social media can be filled with dangerous and inappropriate content that we really have to watch out for ourselves and for our children. It can be littered with haram things, both to our eyes and to our ears, and things that can pollute our minds. You find that generally, the model on social media is that it promotes negative things. It promotes inappropriate behavior. And not only inappropriate, sometimes dangerous behavior. A while back, there was a challenge, there was a trend in which youth would eat Tide Pods. It was called the Tide Pod Challenge. If you look at a Tide Pod, especially the one that the company had constructed and developed, it looks like, a very, good-looking candy. Very appetizing. Even though it's a detergent which you place in the washer. So what were kids doing? They were recording themselves eating that Tide Pod and describing it as the Tide Pod Challenge. However, so many kids became ill, ended up in the hospital, and some even died, such that the company had to discontinue that model. Can you imagine? A company had to discontinue a model of a certain kind of product because it was harming people. Why? Because of a social media trend. You'll find that social media sometimes promotes, evil things in very innocent ways. There was another trend in which young kids, sometimes as young as 8, 9 years old, would take a certain method of contraceptive. They would fill it with water and then place it on their heads. And it was called the X challenge, right? But what would happen is sometimes that would engulf all their heads and they would suffocate. And not only that, what kind of trend is this? You're encouraging young kids to obtain such a thing and, play around with it, mess with it. It's seen as funny. What kind of things are you encouraging the youth to do? Well, probably definitely not good things. There's a recent trend. It's seen as funny, but it's not funny at all. On TikTok. And many of the youth use TikTok nowadays. It's their preferred platform. And I can almost guarantee anyone here under the age of 15 uses TikTok. What is this trend on TikTok? There's a man by the name of Benjamin. He does some TikTok videos. I don't know why. The youth of TikTok have decided to gang up on him. And it's called the We Are In Your Closets Challenge. So they comment on every single one of his videos that we are in your closet. And that we will come to you in the middle of the night. And, spook you, scare you, do all kinds of stuff. And they can get really violent sometimes. Sometimes it's cryptic. Someone will just, comment on one of his videos. Hey, Benjamin, be prepared. August 25th, 9 p.m. Really cryptic messages. Really threatening. Such that he had to, disable his comments and perhaps even get the police involved. But what? You see that, the youth find this a funny trend. But haram, they're really scaring this, this man. And it might be in lighthearted, but, they're really threatening him and scaring him. But this is seen as fun. This is seen as entertainment. Another problem posed by social media is that it promotes one-upmanship. Socrates, the ancient philosopher, he mentioned that one of the qualities of a good debate is that both sides ought to genuinely search for the truth. He says that many times what happens in a debate is that neither side cares for the truth. They just want to score points. They both just want to say that, look, I defeated you in that argument, or my rhetoric was better. People were more convinced by my argument. And that means what? I'm better than you. Objective truth and arriving at the truth are not even important. And you'll find on social media that's often the case. People will make faulty arguments, invalid arguments. Why? Just to score points, seem cool, seem like, you're saying something popular, going with the trend. And that's wrong. The Quran teaches us that it doesn't matter what people think, what society thinks, what your forefathers thought. What matters is truth. Seek the truth. Don't debate so you can, flex your muscles, your intellectual muscles. Debate, if you debate, in order to arrive at the truth. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Third, excessive use of social media promotes the behavior of showing off. On social media, if you don't go every 2 weeks to a beautiful, resort on the ocean and show off, how nice your vacation is every 5 minutes, that's not good enough. On social media, if you don't post pictures of your new BMW, your new Mercedes, your new Porsche, you're not good enough. You're not going to get those likes, those retweets, those follows. Social media is all about showing off what you have. I've even seen posts sometimes, I don't know why they do this. Now, perhaps it's to motivate others, perhaps there's other reasons. Sometimes people will post an actual picture of their bank account and its information. That can be dangerous sometimes, right? People could steal your information. Why? In order to say, look, I have so-and-so amount of dollars in my bank account and I can afford this and I can do this. Well, what's the point? You're just feeding your ego by engaging in that kind of behavior. Are you engaging in something productive? Is this helping anyone? Or are you just feeding your ego? And the problem is, I wish that really was the case. People who show their really happy, content lives on social media, they really were happy in person, in real life, as they say, IRL. But that's often not the case. Let me share with you a very sad story. There's a lady by the name of Madison Holleran from the University of Pennsylvania. She was a freshman, and online her life seemed to be perfect. She was on the sports team, I believe gymnastics. She was a very popular girl in school. She had lots of friends, a really extensive social network. And in fact, most of the girls at the school, they said, we really envy her. And if we could switch places with someone, we'd want to be Madison. Well, guess what? Before freshman year ended, she jumped out of the parking garage 9 stories high. She landed to her death. So everyone was shocked. Madison. This is Madison. Why did she commit suicide? If anyone, we would have expected it from anyone, but not Madison. She really seemed like she got everything together. She was popular. She was good in sports. She had good grades. Lots of friends. What's going on? So then her family revealed that she had a really long struggle with depression, with anxiety, with taking several medications. And one method she would use to cope with that was to post on social media in the hopes that her life will actually change. So you see her social media, man, it's so nice. She's going on vacation, she has good grades, she's, on the top of her sports. But guess what? That's the illusion that you see. And that's the kind of illusion that social media promotes. However, at the end of the day, it's just that, an illusion. At the end of the day, we find out that the reality of the case was that she had committed suicide. She had many problems and struggles that she didn't share on social media. She would only share the good side, the positive side. And so we have to sometimes understand that not all we see on social media reflects reality. And in fact, various studies have confirmed there is a link between increased consumption of social media, the more you use social media, and higher depression. The more you use social media, the higher the rate of depression that you may experience. Why? For exactly this reason. We all have problems in our lives. No one lives a perfect life. But the problem is on social media, as you're scrolling on Instagram, you see those beautiful photos, people enjoying their vacation in Bora Bora, people getting accepted to Harvard Medical School. Wow, amazing. Yeah, that's true. People are posting good things. But are they posting the bad? Are they posting the ugly? Well, definitely not. So you feel you are inadequate. Why is my life not like theirs? Why don't I have this picturesque, gorgeous, beautiful life? Well, the reality is no one does. You're just seeing an illusion. You're just seeing the positive side. And if you were to know what's going deep down inside, perhaps your image of what is going on would change. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. You find often on social media, immodesty is promoted. You find that the more skin you reveal and the less clothes you wear, the more provocative your positions and poses on social media, the more likes and follows and retweets that you gain. This is what is promoted. For example, on TikTok, which many of our youth use, and many of our youth are daily exposed to, there are many trends in which dancing and inappropriate behavior and content is very often recommended. And one thing unique about TikTok, unlike others, is that it generates content for you to see without even you wanting to. So sometimes even without you wanting to be exposed, without the youth wanting to be exposed, the app exposes them to things that are inappropriate. And the business model on social media is that the more inappropriate the content, the more lucrative it is. And the more they recommend it to people. So you find that for example, whenever social media enters a country, there was a country in the Pacific Islands in which there had been no TV and no social media. After the introduction of TV and Western media, they found that cases of anorexia and eating disorders skyrocketed. Why? What's the relationship? Well, once you see on TV all these perfect, actors and actresses and their body, right? What do you think? You think, well, That should be me, right? I should also aspire to be like that. Well, the problem is there are various different body shapes, and not everyone is the same, right? Not everyone can be like that. Their full-time job is staying in shape and looking like that. We have our priorities, our jobs, school to attend to. So we can't all be like that. So you find that social media, in fact, promotes the behavior of anorexia and other eating disorders. And how is this good for our youth? It's found that if diagnosed young, anorexia may stay, especially with young girls, for life. Can you imagine that? Just because of a few posts or a few hours of engagement, our youth may engage with a lifelong struggle with eating disorders, with depression, with anxiety, and many other things, unfortunately. Another fear of social media is that things may be taken out of context, right? And unfortunately, these days there is something known as deepfakes. Now, what are deepfakes? Deepfakes utilize AI, or artificial intelligence. For example, you just add someone's image to the program. You take a picture of yourself, and you add it to the program, and what the program can do is, just using that one image, it can add your image on a video with other people on one of their faces, and it makes it so real that even you will doubt, was I there? And you can, for example, see on YouTube, that's one class that teaches AI and deepfakes. Their introductory course is by who? Is by Obama, President Barack Obama, or former President Barack Obama. He's talking about the class, and he's talking about the benefits of the class and the syllabus, and at the end he reveals that I'm not President Obama, I'm actually just a deepfake created by AI, both the face, the video, and the audio. His voice sounds just like President Obama. However, it's not him. It's just a deepfake. They feed the technology a few videos, a few pictures, and it can generate whatever you want. And it's so realistic, you would never imagine that this is, something that's photoshopped or not real. You'd imagine this is him. However, that's how deep our technology has gotten. So imagine you have enemies. Imagine you have people who are jealous of you, who want to harm you. Even if you don't post anything bad online, right? For them to take advantage of. The fear nowadays is that they may take just a regular photo, an innocent photo, and they can place that anywhere they want. They can make it do anything they want. So we always have to be very cautious in what we post online, what we watch online, our social media and online behaviors. For it's a known fact that for the most part, social media, you're able to stay anonymous if you want. Studies have proven that anonymity reduces civility. When you don't see the person you're harming, when you don't see the kind of damage that you're creating, you're more likely to engage in harmful behavior. You're more likely to leave a hurtful comment, hurt someone's feelings, or even threaten people online. Why? Because if they don't know that it's you who's doing that, you feel more comfortable doing so. Studies have proven time and time again that anonymity reduces civility. So when there's no face-to-face interactions, you're more prone to be cruel, rude, mean. You'd say things that you would never normally say in person. And for example, you find that sometimes many individuals online are victims of what is known as doxing. What is doxing? It's when a group of individuals decide to hack into someone's account and they publicly reveal, for example, their address, their social security number, all kinds of private information that you normally wouldn't want others to discover. And so if you're not careful with the way you manage yourself online, on social media, you open yourself various doors of harm. So we need to take utmost care in how we interact online. Inshallah, the third problem of social media that we will be discussing is the problem of the epidemic of fake news. But inshallah, we will leave that for tomorrow. So we mentioned that anonymity can make monsters out of people who are otherwise decent people. Dear brothers and sisters, let me ask you a question. Those people on the day of Karbala, on the camp of Ibn Ziyad and Umar ibn Sa'ad, did Imam al-Hussein see them or not? Were they anonymous, or did the Imam see all their faces? Did they not feel any shame that they were the people from Kufa that betrayed him? These were the people that sent letters to Imam al-Hussein saying, you have over 18,000 supporters here in Kufa. Come and support us. Come and we will support you. No. Look at the audacity. They see their Imam and they see the grandson of Rasulullah on the other side. And they are carrying their swords. We find that on the day of Karbala, when Imam al-Hussein, after all the companions had been slaughtered and massacred, he gets up and he yells, أَلَا هَلْ مِن نَاصِرٍ يَنصُرُنَا أَلَا هَلْ مِن مُعِينٍ يُعِينُنَا أَلَا هَلْ مِن ذَابٍ يَذَبُّ عَنْ حَرَمِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ. He says, is there no one to support us? Is there no one left to support the family of Rasulullah? One narration states that when he said that, when he made the call for help, all the dead companions' bodies began to shake. As if to say, oh Aba Abdullah, if there was an ounce of life left in our bodies, we would come and support you. When Imam Zayn al-Abidin heard that call, he heard the call of his father for help. He was bedridden. He got up from his bed and he began to drag the sword, going towards the enemy camp. When Sayyidah Zainab saw that, she said, oh Zayn al-Abidin, where are you going? Oh my nephew, you're sick. She had to force him back into bed. And the Imam was crying. On the day of Karbala, on the day of the 10th, there were two young boys who heeded that call of Aba Abdullah. When Aba Abdullah placed that call for help, two young boys, Awn and Muhammad, the narration state, they heeded the call of Aba Abdullah. Who were Awn and Muhammad? Awn and Muhammad were the children of the Sayyidah Zainab, peace be upon her. Before the day of Ashura, it is reported that Sayyidah Zainab took them aside and she told them, tomorrow Awn and Muhammad, make me proud. Make me proud in front of Aba Abdullah. So on the day of Ashura, after hearing the call of Aba Abdullah, of Imam al-Hussein, Awn and Muhammad go to their uncle Aba Abdullah and they tell him, oh Imam al-Hussein, oh master, please let us go to the battlefield. And how old were these young boys asking their uncle to go to the battlefield? One report says they were 9 and 11. Another says they were 11 and 13. Very young boys asking their uncle to go to the battlefield where they will die. Imam al-Hussein says, no, I don't allow you. I don't give you permission to go. Why? Because how can I send you to the battlefield where your mother Zainab will see? You want me to send you to the battlefield and your mother Zainab sees you die? I cannot accept that. So they go broken-hearted to their mother Zainab. They say, oh mother, we went to Aba Abdullah and he did not give us permission to fight. What do we do? Then herself, Lady Zainab, she comes to Imam al-Hussein. She says, oh Imam al-Hussein, why don't you give permission for my sons to fight? May their lives be ransomed for you. Imam al-Hussein says, oh Lady Zainab, how can I send your sons? They're so young, they're young boys. How can I send them to the battlefield? Look at what Lady Zainab responds. She says, oh Aba Abdullah, you send your children, Aliyun al-Akbar. You send all your family and children to the battlefield and you want my children to see? I can't accept that. What do you expect me to tell our mother Fatima on the day of judgment? What will I answer? I will be ashamed on the day of judgment. Please allow them to fight. Afterwards, Awn and Muhammad, they come, they receive the blessings from their uncle. He gives them permission to fight. And they go and they fight like warriors. On the battlefield, they were men and they fought. However, the enemies surrounded them and they struck them and they were martyred. But before they were martyred, they said, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Alayka minni salam ya ibn Rasulillah. It is said that after witnessing Awn and Muhammad die and become martyrs, Lady Zainab did not cry. Why did she not cry? Is she not a mother? Does she not have a heart? Of course she was pained, but she didn't want to cry because she didn't want to add to the pain in the heart of Aba Abdullah, seeing all his companions and family die one by one. It's said that she did not cry until they came back to Medina. When Lady Zainab went back to Medina and she went to the house, that was no longer the same house. She went to the house and she saw the empty rooms of Aoun and Muhammad for children. It is said that at that point, Lady Zainab began to cry. She began to cry and lament the loss of her children. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. فسيعلم الذين ظلموا آل محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. إلهنا نسألك وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم العجل العز الأكرم. يا الله 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 يا Allah. Dear brothers and sisters, for the shifa of our community, of our communion members, and those of the Muslimin who are in need, let us recite the blessed verse 5 times. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. إلهنا نسألك أن تحمي المسلمين في كل مكان. Oh Allah, we ask you to protect Muslims all over the world, in all corners of the globe. إلهنا, we ask you to protect us from this pandemic, from this COVID-19 virus. وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات نهدي ثواب الفاتحة مع الصلوات.
Just a quick announcement and a reminder that tomorrow, starting with the Namaz al-Zuhrain, there will be a procession in downtown Houston. This is an annual procession organized by Pasbani Aza. They have requested each and every one of you to take part in it. The flyer is right by the door for more information.